So I want to thank everyone who emailed. We do have a little time for questions. So I'm going to ask a couple questions, and we'll start out with a focus on undocumented students and dreamers. And so, Dr. Gonzalez, I think this one is more pointed to you. What can be done to secure additional funding allocations for Dreamer Centers? Current funding merely covers the cost of one staff member at most sites to provide all the work to facilitate services for undocumented students.
Thank you for that question. Is this on?
Yes.
Yes, all right. Well, Juan, the work that you're doing here is about eliminating silos. So the first thing that I have to share before I go into strategy is you need to understand what it means to build a Dream Resource Center in step one. The next step is connecting the dots. Our dreamers are not just dreamers. They deserve a safe space, but they also come with disabilities. Some of them are parents. And you also have faculty and staff who also identify as dreamers, and I know that with statewide work. So being able to braid the funding, right? So especially in the absence of additional resources, being able to create an ecosystem where you can say, we can use our student equity and achievement dollars because serving dreamers is equity work. We can use our DSPS dollars when necessary, when it qualifies. We can use our general fund. That is also a funding source. And we can and should be creating the local partnerships to do that work if there are insufficient funds. I can tell you, though, that even with that, there is still more need. And so in terms of Dream Resource Centers, there's a really great opportunity as we think about basic needs centers. That was a new legislation, a new pot of money. I think there's an opportunity there for co-located sites, for a lot of braiding of resources. The other big piece is that we live in a very bold state, a state that does not just get dissuaded from the lack of federal action. And so I think to the extent that that was a priority or that there are pilots, I do believe that that is an opportunity here in the state of California.
Thank you, Chancellor Gonzalez. Assemblymember Alvarez, first, they're thanking you for your support of Dreamers. How can you support funding for all undocumented students to cover the cost of United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, the USCIS application, fees? Most students can now access legal service providers, but cannot afford to go through an adjustment of status due to the high cost of fees, which are approximately $400.
Well, first of all, what I encourage all of us is that the system is looking to, the federal system, immigration system, is looking to increase the fee of those applications. So to the extent you can right now engage, like this is the moment to engage on ensuring that you voice your opinion on why that is not a good idea, that would be helpful because that keeps the costs a little bit more under control. I want to say one other thing about our state leading in many regards and how I'm hoping to potentially break some of the traditional barriers set by our unfortunate immigration policy and system. I have an idea that actually came from me visiting your student center, your Dream Center. We had circles, and we had students that came, and they all were either DACA dreamers or potentially still undocumented students. And one of the things that I had not thought about, and I don't know if you've thought about this, but prior to DACA, the state really stepped up and said, we want to make sure that everybody has access to education. And we provided a lot of support, financial support and other support, regardless of immigration status. And that's a really good thing. Then DACA came and it really created a more certainty and a legal system for students who were lucky enough to enroll within that period. But then DACA ended in 2017. And now we've had 6 years of students who we as a state have continued to invest in these students, but 6 years of students that perhaps because the system does not exist, they are not under DACA protections. And because of that, we are creating a pipeline of talent that is ready to go out into the workforce, but they cannot do so because of our immigration system. My idea, crazy idea, legislative, and I didn't introduce it this year because I couldn't figure out the legal mechanism how to write this, but is about how do we give those students the opportunity to work legally in the state of California. So going against what the federal immigration policies and law perhaps prevent, but where we can really gain from, again, now generation of talented students who we are bringing through our educational system and are not being able to find a way to get employment because of their legal status. And so that's something that I hope can help students as they are getting prepared and they're studying. Because really, if in the back of your mind you're thinking, well, I can get an education, but then what's going to happen afterwards because I don't have documents in order to work, we're probably missing out on a lot of students who are choosing maybe not to pursue an education, or students who are pursuing it, but then we're not putting their talent to use. And that's an area that I really want to focus on.
Thank you, Assemblymember. Assemblymember, where you had suggested that people start voicing their concerns about the increased application, where do they voice their concerns?
So it's the, I guess it's the Immigration Naturalization Services. It's a federal agency. If you Google it, I'm sure you'll find it. There's a lot of organizations. I'm a member of the National Association of Latino Elected Officials, and we're really involved in this work, but there's probably other organizations doing the same.
Great, thank you. Dr. Sanchez, unfortunately, undocumented students cannot be legally employed, not even as student workers, as the Assemblymember just spoke to. However, paid professional development and internship opportunities are allowable for undocumented students. How can there be a commitment from the district to provide these learning spaces for them?
The answer is yes. And yeah, we can give it up. Where it really begins is with our relationships with businesses and industries, and really being able to understand the student story. So we've been building those relationships, telling our student story, and also telling the businesses and industries about the skills and abilities that our students have in order to be able to prepare for the future workforce needs. I also see our amazing executive director of our foundation, Sofia Salgado Robitaille, and I know her and the foundation are also building pathways to scholarships as well. So really making sure that students have access to the resources they need to connect to those opportunities and allow them to show their skills and abilities in those spaces so that they are preparing for the needs of the workforce moving into the future. And we are doing that work, and we want to continue to expand doing that work so our students have maximum opportunities to engage with business and industry in our region.
Thank you. As a follow-up, Chancellor Gonzalez, Assemblymember Alvarez, is there any policy or legislative strategies that can be used to build pilot programs, internship programs for these students at a state level?
There is a new state resource. It started 2 years ago. It's called College Corps, and we specifically got a waiver through the Department of Ed to make sure that all students can participate in College Corps. That is one model. So as you're thinking about additional models, it was an internship program focused on the 3 greatest areas of need for the state of California: food pantries, education, climate change. So any student, if you are a College Corps college, can qualify, including our Dreamers and DACA students. The other area, and I guess statewide resource I would mention, is we also have our own foundation for California community colleges. The state put out resources and funding for students, particularly as they go through renewal for their DACA application, but particularly fees. The state provided those resources to the Department of Social Services, so a different state agency. But our foundation is very much involved with reaching the right communities. So to the extent that there are fees, that should be fully covered. It is fully covered by the state. There is a hotline, and the phone calls are deleted 2 hours later because it's too dangerous for our students to ask for help.
Thank you. Assemblymember, did you?
No, I would say that commitment continues from the state, and but there are other commitments that, our budget situation at the state is not as good as it's been the last 2 years. Oddly enough, you would think that during COVID and the economic recovery, but really this year is a difficult one. And a lot of programs, like Cal Grant reform, for example, is sort of like an unknown, I would say, and there are some of us that believe we need to move forward on that because that is going to help our students, particularly our students of most need now as opposed to later down the line. There are other programs that really benefit community college students that the budget, because it's so challenging, are being scrutinized a little bit more. And so I think that's where it's important for people who support our community college system to really speak up and talk about the strength. And Dr. Gonzalez obviously does that very well for the system as a whole, but when it comes to specific programs, that's where the voices of the community really make a difference, and we hope that you all get involved in that way.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to switch a little bit to four-year university because there's been a lot of conversations about four-year degree programs in South County. Anyone can jump on this one, but I know, Dr. Sanchez, we're doing some exciting things in this area. How are demographic trends that point to fewer high school graduates in coming years impacting the prospects for either a new four-year college here and or community college enrollment?
I can jump in. I mean, I just read a recent report that talked about the chronic absentee rates at our local high schools. And 14 of the 15 high schools with the highest chronic absenteeism rates are south of the Interstate 94. As a matter of fact, there was one school whose chronic absentee rate is 76%. That's Valencia Park. Now, when you look at the data and you look at the schools, you see those are impacting communities of color in our region. So this is the reason why we're focusing so much of our work around working with our high schools and really trying to create early college pathways, early career pathways with our feeder high school districts, and really the need to expand that work. But in order to do that, you have to have the organizational structure that allows us to do that work effectively and efficiently. We can be a part of the solution. We can be a part of the solution working with our high school partners by expanding opportunities for students to enroll in college courses as early as possible. And really, we're also in real nuanced conversations with our high school partners around what does a college student look like who's still enrolled at the 9th, 10th, 11th grade, 12th grade level. And also challenging the paradigm. For example, CCAP dual enrollment courses or early college courses have always been designed for that 3.0 student, that 3.2 student, that 3.5 student, who even without our services are likely to go to the university. What about the student that has a C level GPA, 2.1 GPA, who got a C in pre-algebra? Should we be directing those students into CCAP dual enrollment courses? My answer is yes, why not? And really changing how we create pathways, historical pathways for our students, and especially our communities of color, to those early college preparation, early career preparation programs. And I believe if we can work with our high schools, if we can build solid programming at the community college, and then bring in our university partners to create that seamless pathway, and to provide access for our students in South County to bachelor degree programs, I think that's the solution. And it's going to take all of us working together to get there.
I would just like to say that this is another example where Southwestern College isn't waiting for this to actually figure itself out, right? It's been decades of work, and more recently, thanks to the work of Mayor Salas, but really on the whole university conversation and four-year conversation for us in the South Bay. But this has been a real issue we're talking about decades now. And so Southwestern College isn't just waiting around to see like what happens, right? We heard about the potentially four-year degree in architecture, a step in the direction of four-year opportunities. This is also where I really call out our institutions. And one of the ones that has really been coming to the table is San Diego State University, which often tends to be one of our only universities in San Diego County that recognizes that South County in particular is important to the region. We know that through the Sweetwater Compact for Success. We're guaranteed admission for students in our Sweetwater schools. But then last year, the commitment to try and move their first four-year degree with the School of Television and Film, which we still have work to do on that. If any of you read the paper today, there's a little hurdle there we have to work through, but that's a real commitment. And I just want to acknowledge that at least there's a genuine interest. I know there's other people from other four-year institutions in the room today, and I don't want to offend you, but I'm hoping that they come to the table just as strongly as San Diego State is willing to come to the table. And then partnering with Southwestern College, because a post-secondary education in the South County does not exist without Southwestern College. And this is the partnership to go through and to work with, to make sure that at the student center that's being built, that there's a real presence, not just with a plaque on a door, but a real presence here in the South County with people who are going to work to get kids into those other universities in San Diego County. And then when we are further along the path with a university campus in Chula Vista, which we will make happen, then that they also come to the table and bring programs to that campus. So this is, the more you hear me talk about this, the more direct I'll be. That's as direct as I'll be today, but it's a call out to all of our universities that you got to come and work with us to make this a reality for our community.
Chancellor Gonzalez, did you want to add anything?
I was just going to say, this is your guided pathworks at its best, right? You are not waiting to only have one solution. You're creating the pipeline and other solutions. What do I mean by that? There's a Chinese proverb that literally says, you know, while a bridge is broken and children are drowning, there are some that are going to go save children one by one. And then the solution, which is fixing the bridge, so that more children don't fall in. That is what you are doing here. You're building out the pipeline to make sure that you're capturing the students in K through 12, that it is strong, that every single student in this community in K through 12 believes that college is an opportunity. At the same time, you're improving your transfer level math and English in the first year rates, which is huge. It's tremendous work, but so that your students can qualify to actually transfer to 4 years. And at the same time, as you're better preparing students, you're building out pipelines to your own baccalaureate degrees. That's guided pathways. That's what Assemblymember Alvarez just mentioned, which is you are not waiting for things to change. You're creating the solutions here in this community.
Thank you. Let's give ourselves a round of applause. Yes, please.
I just wanted to add one piece because I see our strong workforce dean here, Jennifer Lewis here, and the work that Dean Lewis and her team are doing also with our businesses, like the San Ysidro Higher Education Center, in building those short-term programs that actually work to move front office workers into potential coordinator or management roles. So those stackable certificate programs is an area of emphasis as well, and our strong workforce team is doing an excellent job of serving our community. So job well done.
And I know we're on a tight schedule with the Assembly members, so I just want to kind of close us out. I have a fun announcement, but I do want to recognize the leadership that's on the stage, because when we talk about declining high school enrollment and we talk about local students, and borders don't know anything about locality, right? Students are local whether they live 10 miles south or 25 miles north. AB 91 was spurred by the leadership and the vision of the Chancellor's office, former Chancellor Oakley, Dr. Sanchez, and thank you so much, Assemblymember Alvarez, for carrying that forward. These are our students, right? So this is a whole nother group of local students that we'll be able to serve.